Hello, this is Pamela Topchian, and I am a board certified hypnotherapist. And I am doing this new feature called Holistic Connections Conversations with Holistic Practitioners. And today we have Kit with us. So, how are you doing today, Kit? Doing
Hi,
well?
everyone. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Pamela.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. So, tell us a little bit about what you do in the holistic healing world.
All right. So I'm Kit. I live in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm a system solution guide, energy healer. I offer systemic family constellations and intuitive guidance.
Very nice. Very nice. I love that. And so, if you could explain to people energy healing and the systemic, or is that how, am I saying that correctly? Systemic
Well, a lot of
family
people say
cons.
it. Yeah, you could
Okay.
use systemic constellations or systemic family constellations.
Okay.
It's all
Okay.
the same.
Okay. Great. So if you can explain to people who maybe never heard of that before, and I was one of them before I spoke to you, I had heard of it, but
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. So
Mhm.
can you explain a little bit about what that is like for what a client could expect?
Yeah, of course. So systemic family constellations is all about how your family history and relationships are affecting you, if even if you don't realize it. So it's different from your usually from your usual therapy or
Mm-hmm.
coaching. It's about looking at the hidden energetics of your family that keep you from taking forward movements in your life, like let's
Yeah.
say your family dynamics, relationships, even things happening in your business. So we look at these like in the invisible patterns or blocks that keep popping up, and we work on releasing them. So that's kind of like the gist of like constellation work. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, that's amazing because
Yeah.
so much, it doesn't even have to be trauma. And I think people sort of get that mistake, you have that misconception that, well, I don't have childhood trauma, so I must not have any blocks from my past. But all
Right.
kinds of things can be blocks from your past that have nothing to do with trauma.
Mhm.
And like you said, you might not even realize it. Um, so that's great. So, what can a person expect when they come to you? So, you explained how it works, but what exactly are you doing, or what's the conversation, or what can a client expect when they come to you?
Yeah. So in a constellation session, or let's say a session that I would have with you, so first I would take an interview to kind of like see where you're at and what
Yeah.
your intention is in in the session. And in the constellation, we use representing.
Okay.
So representing is about tapping into the energy or consciousness of something outside of ourselves.
Mm.
So whether it's like a business, a project, your mom, your dad, let's say an offering that you want to create, right? So
Mm.
everything, so I look at it as like everything has its own energy field
Yeah.
or awareness, right? So it's like including our clients, the projects that we create,
Yeah.
right? Because as soon as
Absolutely
we think
everything.
it, it has consciousness.
Right, right.
So by tuning in, so we like kind of like I would describe as like tuning in, like closing our eyes and we tap into the energy field, we gain insights beyond our normal perspective.
Yeah.
So it's like I would look at it as like our brain are like satellite dishes.
Mm-hmm.
So we like tune into that consciousness and we just kind of like trust what happens in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about like trusting what's coming up for you
Yeah.
without judgment. So it's like um it's like a lot of trust between the client and the practitioner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Mhm.
are you talking with them? Are they sitting there talking to them, or are they do they lay down with their eyes closed, or how does that work when someone walks into so first of all, I guess, are you doing this remotely, or are you doing this in person, or
Yeah.
both?
So it's great, great question. So we do a lot of people can do them online,
Mm-hmm.
people could do them in person. It's just as effective. So let's
Great.
say you and I, it's as if like you and I are sitting in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
So um yeah, you could kind of like you never know what to expect in a constellation
Sure.
session. anything can come up. So these are kind of like what I'm sharing is kind of like just
Very basic,
very basic.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So they would come, so they could do it online or they could come to you in person, both.
Mm-hmm.
And is it groups or one-on-one or both?
A lot of practitioners do it one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
There are practitioners that do it in group. It depends on the practitioner and
Sure.
what the event what the event they're hosting is
Mm-hmm.
or theme of the workshop or event
Okay.
that they're creating. So,
Okay. Yeah, how
yeah.
interesting. So you could have like a workshop and have a whole group, right?
Mhm.
Or you could just have a session. Is that what you would call it? Just have a session with a
Mhm.
client. And so would it be one session or would it be multiple sessions? Or does it depend on the client?
I think it depends on the intention of the
Okay,
session. Like, for
sure.
example, I could say my intention is to live a more happy life.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes it could take one session. I would say it depends on like the relationship with the client and the practitioner. Like
Sure.
the deeper you go, the more uncovering that you can create together.
Yeah.
So it really depends.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. I love that so much because there's so much in our subconscious and so much from our childhood and our past. And so I wonder, so some people believe in past lives, and so I wonder if you could do something through the constellations, um, that has to do with past lives, that things that are stuck within you from past lives. Is that something that you ever do or?
It's funny that you bring that up. I think it depends on, again, the intention of the client.
Of course. Yeah, yeah.
If it comes up, like
Yeah.
I had talked about representing. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say you and I are in a session and we kind of like step into a part of in the session where, a past life needs to be represented.
I see. I see.
So it
Yeah.
like really depends on like on what the client needs in that moment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so
hmm
amazing. I love that.
hmm
Um, so how did you get started and how did you first get interested in all of this?
How did I get started? So about 7 years ago, my girlfriend, now wife at the time, she was mentoring for my mentors now, Dan Cohen and Emily Blayfeld in Rhode Island. She said, "Hey, there's a workshop this weekend that's coming up." And at the time, uh, my communication style wasn't that great.
Mm-hmm.
Like we would get into like arguments and,
Um,
I was the type to say, you know what, let's talk about this like in 3 weeks, you know,
let's put it off.
put it off. I was a major, like, like the total avoider.
Avoidance. Yeah.
And when she asked me to join the workshop, I said something inside of me like clicked, like I should join. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that inner call. So I said
Yeah.
I hopped on a bus from Brooklyn to Providence
Ah.
that Thursday, I remember. And the weekend just like blew my mind.
Oh,
I'm like,
nice.
what happened? Like, what is this place? What is this work? How do
Mm-hmm.
they know me? I just like felt like I belonged. It
Oh,
felt like I like these are thoughts. These are like these as if it just clicked. Like I knew that I wanted to learn this work even more.
yeah. Yeah.
So I started attending more workshops. I started to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started doing more work, attending more workshops, I like found myself wanting to like spread the word.
Right. Right.
And I was like, well, let me like, how do I do that? And I'm from a tech background. And
Yeah.
at the time I was a product manager for this tech company and we help people find roommates.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, the job was just kind of to pay the bills.
Right. Right.
But I knew inside of me that I wanted to do something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that I was meeting, I was like really interested in like helping them like spread the word.
Yeah.
So that's when BeHealable started. I was like, I want to create a
Yeah.
directory for people. And I was like, well, I need practitioners. I was
Yeah.
like, and then I found out nobody had websites. So I was like, now,
Right.
and then I found out nobody had this visibility issue when they
Mm-hmm.
created their websites.
Right.
So I kind of like bridge tech and the healing
Yeah.
work. And here we are.
I love
And so,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing. So we've mentioned before off camera that a lot of holistic practitioners really only have that sort of energy healing, about them, and they really are missing the whole tech business piece. And so
Hmm.
you are bridging that gap for them, and I love that. And especially being a holistic practitioner yourself, that you really know where they're coming from and like the message that they want to put out there. So that's great. So that's behealable.com. And we will put that link in the description below, of course. And so do you want to talk a little bit about Be Healable? I know you just explained it somewhat, but do you want to talk about it a little bit more? I know that it is more than just a directory. So what else do you do on the tech side of things?
Um, yeah, I think growing Be Healable is kind of like a little baby
Yeah.
that I've
Like you
that
had a
it was like
vision
a
for
little
it. So,
seed. Yeah, it was
yeah.
like I remember 3 years ago. It really took me a long time to like build it from the ground up, and I'm still building.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because it was really important what I was building and who it was for. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, in the beginning, I had talked about representing and the consciousness because I remember stepping into what Be Healable would be like 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that I like felt the energy that was coming off of Be Healable was just like really big, like
Yeah.
so big, like the outside of like bigger than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really
Nice.
wanted to create a platform that is made for everybody, or at least like not, yeah, it was just like really important for me. I've
Mm-hmm.
been in a lot of like startups in
Mm-hmm.
my career, and most of them I feel like really lack that like, why am I building this? Who is this for?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's great to have that vision of the why and the
Mm-hmm.
who is this for, once it's
Mm-hmm.
done or once you're working on it. And you mentioned how it's like just a seed and it's just like a baby right now, and always working on it. And that I think that, you have to always be whatever business you're in, you always have to be growing it, always looking at that, no matter how successful or how big it is. I think it's important to always be looking at ways to make this better or ways to make this grow, ways to help more people with this. So that's awesome. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing all that with us.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you would like to, well, let me see, before I ask you that, so what is the experience like for you when you are doing your energy work? And so you mentioned an energy healer and the family constellations. So are those two separate things or do you work on that together?
I think it's a kind of like in my tool belt.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not separate. It's just kind of like who I am and like what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just like this tool that I think that I've always had in
Yeah.
my that I've always had that's kind of
It's a
like
part of
it's
you.
here. Yeah, it's definitely a part of me and I can't
Nice.
ignore it.
Nice. So somebody can't come to you for family constellations and not also get energy healing, right?
Yeah, I think those are all in the background, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of this work is like also soul work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even if we're, you and I are, let's say, doing a session together,
Hmm.
I think when we leave the session, more healing happens after that.
Oh, sure, sure,
So I
absolutely.
think it's not just like an hour session. I think it's like a slow integration too. And I think that's part of
Absolutely.
yeah, I think it goes on. It doesn't like ever end.
Right, right. because
Yeah.
you're, speaking of planting seeds, it's almost like
Hmm.
planting seeds and putting things, like you said, the intention, and then over time and depending on the client, how much will come up for them or how much will make more sense to them or, how, the dots will be connected for them, things will continue to heal and to grow and to come to them after your sessions. It's not like
Hmm.
everything's in the session and then you go home and that's it. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's totally the same with hypnotherapy. I usually tell my clients that the big changes happen after your session, just to be aware of the time, the days and the nights to follow, to be
Right.
aware. Yeah.
Right. And
So
also it's just kind of like awareness and like what's happening for you. It's also the client's responsibility to kind of like
yeah,
what are the changes? Like seeing that too, and not
right.
just like relying. Of course, again, the trust with the practitioner and the
Right,
client.
right. And
I
you don't
think that's
want
a
them
big
to
part.
be dependent on you for those
Right.
changes. It's all within them. And if they're
Mm-hmm.
not ready, you could work with them a lot and they're not going to get it probably, or they're not going to be ready to receive the healing if they're not, if they're not open to it or not ready for it, or maybe we're convinced to come to you or something, somebody made them do it or, or convinced them that maybe that's what they need and they're not sure about it, maybe. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So, do you know of any like misconceptions that people might have about energy healing in general?
It doesn't work. I hear it doesn't work. I don't need it. It's woo woo.
Right.
You're crazy. What are you talking about? Um, uh, it's what is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. And so then, do you ever try to sort of help people to understand it better, or do you try to, what do you say to those types of people that come to you and ask you those questions or say those things to you?
I think for me now, I think
Hmm.
it's more about, that's where they are. And if they're
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
going to listen, or it's not even listening, it's more of like, are they open to listening? If they're open to
Exactly.
listening, I'll share more. If they're
Hmm.
not, I kind of like feel it in myself not to say anymore because
Yeah.
the more I say, it's probably not going to translate. So
Right.
it really depends on, again, just kind of like, if you and I are talking and the connection isn't there,
Right.
I'm not gonna, I would rather just save my energy for
Yeah.
myself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You're not in the business of trying to convince people that something is true or that something works. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I get
Yeah.
that. I totally get that. I get the same thing with hypnotherapy. So,
Yeah.
so
And
yeah.
it's like if they're not open to the healing, then they're not right now. And I
Yeah.
honor that.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're all in our own place on our path. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you were on a different place in your path. I was on a different place. So yeah. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
always we're always moving along, changing and growing.
I remember when I first started my healing journey or self-development journey,
Hmm.
I'm the oldest of my
Hmm.
sisters. And, I just came out of a great workshop and I remember calling my sisters, telling them, you need to do this, like really
Right.
just like pushing it down their throats.
Right.
And, it kind of, they didn't like it.
Right.
They didn't like it
Right.
at all. And I was like, how could you? This is what you need, and I had to
Like,
like
don't you get
take us.
it?
Yeah, don't you get it? And I was like, I had to really take a step back.
Right.
It's like I put myself in their shoes and I
Yeah.
saw, if somebody was pushing something down my throat,
Right.
I'm gonna reject it.
Right. Right.
So it was like again, it was kind of like a healing in me too to like,
Yeah.
like when somebody's ready, they'll come and say, "Hey, Kit, I need some help."
Right.
So I only wait for those moments, not like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a great story because you learned a great lesson early on from your own sister. So that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's see. So do you have anything else on the horizon? Anything coming up for you?
So I actually was I'm in the leadership program
Mm-hmm.
for the Alchemical Constellations Training and Facilitator certification. That's a lot of words.
It
So if
is.
you're interested, so it's called the Alchemical Constellations Training and Facilitator certification.
Okay.
If you're interested in learning how to use constellations or learn more about constellations, I will share Pamela the link to sign
Okay.
up,
Yep.
um, where I learned constellation work from
Great.
Emily Blayfeld and Dan Cohen. You can sign up for my newsletter to learn more about my offerings,
Oh,
practitioner
nice.
spotlights. I'll be starting doing and signing up for my free webinars. So I'll share all that with Pamela, and you could
Yeah.
also book a discovery call with me. I'll share that link with Pamela
Yeah. And we'll
as well.
have all of that in the description below the video.
Yep.
And so is any of that information on BeHealable.com or is there going to be separate links?
I'll share a link in bio, which will
Okay.
have my discovery call, the link to the class that I'll be
Okay.
that I'm in the leadership team,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a link on there for my website, so you can
Okay.
put link so you can sign up for the newsletter.
Okay. Okay. Sounds
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
I
And
hope that
again,
makes sense.
yeah, it does. It does.
Okay, good.
It's in your bio in BeHealable.com, but so people don't have to search through, we'll put those separate links below as well. So we'll have
Mhm.
all those links below.
Yeah.
So let's see. I guess that's about it. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share and with
Yeah, I
people
think
out
I want
there?
to share like if you have I think just I'm kind of just thinking about my past self,
Mm-hmm.
that person that had a gift that
Yeah.
they knew they had and didn't know how to quite share it.
Right, right.
I think I'm thinking of that person
Yeah.
right in this moment. So if
Nice.
you have a gift that you want to create or an offering that you want to share with the world, come message me and
Yeah.
I think just have a conversation. I think
Yeah.
that those gifts that we hold that we know that we have, it's too big to keep hidden.
Yeah.
Really want to encourage people to share it,
Yeah.
to share
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
feel
I
like
love
more
that.
empowered. I feel like I'm in my place,
Yeah.
So
That's so nice. Yeah.
I encourage you.
Yeah. I love that. Great, great ending note there. So thank you again, Kit, so much for being here and sharing all of that with all of us. So I really, really appreciate it. And I know that people have learned from you today or when they watch this. I know people have learned from you. That's awesome. So if you are a holistic practitioner and you would like to share what you do on my YouTube channel, reach out to me. And if you are not in any directory or if you're not pleased with the directory that you're in, contact Kit to go into BeHealable.com because there's so much more. It's not just a directory. So that's what I love about it. There's so much more than just a directory with BeHealable.com. So thanks again, and we're going to say goodbye.
Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you.